Hello, hello. Thank you for clicking on this video. Go ahead and find a seat, get yourself comfortable, maybe grab a snack and a drink, and we can get into this reading. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Addison Taylor. This is my YouTube channel where people like you and all of my lovelies, my subscribers, come to watch videos about tarot and spirituality and astrology and all sorts of things. So if you'd like to join a little club like that, then I'd encourage you to click subscribe. Okay, so for today's video, this is going to be a message from your father's higher self. So it doesn't matter if your father has passed away, if he's still living, if you're very close with your dad, if maybe there's a big distance with dad, maybe there's not a relationship there. It doesn't matter. This is going to apply to for everybody, which is why I have 8 piles here, so that everyone's father was able to come through. And I will flash a picture here in a bit like I always do. But yeah, so for today's reading, I wanted this reading to be kind of encouraging and uplifting, as well as maybe reveal some things that could help you moving forward in regards to your relationship with dad. You know, I think that I can only speak for kind of Western society and culture. I don't know how it is everywhere, but men, you know, are taught to hold so much in and not really express as much, not really open up as much. So I think a lot of us maybe have dads that there's a lot they haven't said. Maybe they haven't said how proud they were of this, that, or the other. Maybe they haven't expressed that they regret that time or that moment, or, you know, who knows? I think pride can get in the way of a lot of conversation. So I wanted this to be a chance for you to see a side of your dad, see a side of your father that maybe you hadn't seen before, and learn some new things about him and what he thinks of you. And just so you know, next week I am planning on posting a video just like this, but from mom. So mom's higher self. So if that's something you're interested in seeing, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss that upload. But today is all about dad, all about father. And I think it's really important that whenever I do go to the picture and you're choosing your pile, don't just choose based on which pile looks prettiest. Really take a few moments to calm yourself, center yourself, and talk to your dad's higher self and say, you know, Dad, which pile in here is the message for me? And choose it based off of that, okay? I'm really, really excited for this, and I will see you all at the piles. Love you. Hi, pile number 1. Okay, let's get into your reading. You all chose the lovely dahlia flower. Let me hold that up for you. And it says on the card, dignity. The quote is by Confucius, and it says, "A wise man has dignity without pride. A fool has pride without dignity." So that may be kind of an overview of everything your father's wanting to talk with you about today. Pride, dignity, foolishness. Let's see. Now, before I roll out the cards, I want to use my astrological die to get an overall feel for today's reading. So let's go ahead and roll these out. Ooh. Okay, we have South Node, Gemini, and 11th house. So your father could be a Gemini, perhaps you are. Gemini is about a person that kind of has 2 sides to themselves. Maybe is one way in their private life, another way in their public life, or maybe has a short fuse and can be real sweet and then kind of snap. Gemini is also about communication and opening up and talking. And the 11th house is all about our larger friendship circles and our groups, kind of like the larger organizations that we are a part of, as well as our hopes and our wishes and our dreams. And Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is another air sign. Now, the South Node, that's about our past. So your dad may be wanting to talk to you about his past or your past. And it's also about kind of our comfort zone, not really kind of what comes comfortable to us, and kind of what we know most well, okay? So we'll see how these different themes play out as the reading goes along. But yeah, okay, so let's start with the tarot and then I'll flip over our oracle cards. Okay, we have King of Swords. That's air energy, so that could be Dad, Gemini. He could also be an Aquarius with the 11th house there. Doesn't have to be, though. This could just be touching on his personality, which I'll get into in just a bit. Okay, we have Five of Swords, more air energy, as well as King of Cups. Okay, so this could be the two sides here, King of Swords, King of Cups. And this Five of Swords, this is a card that's about a battle where someone loses, someone wins. And with King of Swords and King of Cups being right in between this Five of Swords, it feels like your father perhaps battles two parts of himself, this very emotional side and this very detached side. Or it could be a very emotional side, a passionate side, and a very logical side, or a very sensitive side and a very kind of blunt side, with that Gemini energy coming through. And because of that, there could be more of your father perhaps doesn't feel, maybe he feels more like a friend than a father. Maybe that's kind of the relationship that you have with him, where it's more detached. It doesn't feel so family, it feels more like an acquaintance or a person that you know, but it's more of a friendship, not really a father. That doesn't have to be for all of you, though. Water energy is Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, so they could be a Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces as well. He does have a lot of authority about him, though. I'm definitely feeling that from this card. There's a lot of authority coming from these two kings. And there may be, I feel almost like this Five of Swords could represent conflicts that you and he have. But I don't feel like it's that way for most of you. I feel like these are conflicts that you've watched from a distance, him go through. And what I'm hearing from your father is that you also have these two very different sides to yourself. You have this side of you that's very intuitive and emotional and can be very empathic, okay? And then you also have this side to you that is very logical and to the point and blunt and a bit emotionally detached. You have these two sides, and he wants you to know that you inherited this, I guess, from him. But he's saying that you do it so much better than I did. This was kind of the karmic battle that you incarnated to help him fight. And it runs through your ancestral line, okay? And because you come after him, it's like you were able to do it a little bit better than he did. And he wants you to know that he's proud of that. And that he also wants you to know not to reject either one of these kings within yourself, but to instead embrace them both. And he wishes that he was able to do that better, because he does kind of feel like it has to come down to a choice, like, well, which one am I going to be today, King of Cups or King of Swords? And at any moment, they can kind of switch spots. He hasn't really figured out how to blend them both together into one, which he knows you're working on, and he's proud of you for that. And he thinks both sides of you are beautiful, and he just wants you to know that. Don't beat yourself up as badly as he has for some of his mistakes, okay? All right, let's look at the interactive cards. These don't have names, they're just photos, okay? So the first picture is this woman. It looks like she's in a hospital. She's on an IV, and she looks kind of pale and sick. And then we have the little boy who looks like he's I don't know, the teacher's pet, like star students, okay? This to me feels like Dad, and this feels like Dad's mom. So I feel like your father's relationship with his mother was difficult. Mom may have been sick or mentally ill, or she may have just been, not really prepared to be a mom. And he's wanting you to know that as a little boy, he was a lot like you. And I'm also hearing that when you were younger, it gave him a lot of joy to see how similar you were to whenever he was a child. Some of you maybe, it feels like he looked at you and he could see his own inner child through you as a child. And that made him happy, but it also, it actually caused him a lot of pain as well at the same time, because it almost brought his subconscious back to what happened to him through his life to make him the way he was, what hardened his edges, and the sort of rejection he felt from his mother. He definitely felt a rejection or an abandonment from his mom on some level. But when he was when he was born as a child, he was actually very empathic, very passionate, he was a people person. I feel like as he grew, I feel like he may describe himself as an introvert, but he actually was not an introvert when he was younger. He was an extrovert, and that's because he loved people and he trusted people when he was younger. As he grew up and got older, he developed this distrust for people, and now he describes himself as an introvert. It's because of this distrust and this rejection and abandonment he felt from so many important people in his life. But you, the essence of you, is very similar to the essence of him as a child. And he just wants you to know that, regardless of what he's told you or what other people have told you is, oh, you're so different from your dad, or you're just like your mom. His higher self knows, no, you're a version of me. We're from the same essence. And I love that about you. And I relate to you on so many levels, okay? Okay, let's look at the archetype cards. We have Magical Child and the Fool. On the Fool, it says, fearlessly revealing emotion, helping people laugh at absurdity and hypocrisy. That's for the light attributes. And on the shadow attributes, it says, using humor to wound rather than liberate, and denial of your emotional truth. Denial of emotional truth. That's what your dad's higher self most wants you to know. This King of Swords within him became very strong due to the emotional rejection he went through as a child. He felt like he had to have that king within him that could emotionally detach, cut people off, be a bit cold. It was a protection mechanism, okay? And he doesn't, although that King of Swords also helped him in kind of making decisions for his life, and he does seem very intelligent, okay? He's a smart guy. He doesn't want you to cling to that King of Swords within you and ignore this King of Cups, okay? Because you are the Magical Child, which says, seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things and the belief that everything is possible. That's you, and that's who he was when he was little, and he loves that about you. He loves that you are able to trust. He loves that you were born very able to trust and very loving of all types of people, very non-judgmental. I feel like some of you may gravitate towards music and poetry, and because those are very magical forms of expression. And he loves that about you. He doesn't want you to try to control your emotions the way that he felt he had to in order to get through life, okay? That kind of became his comfort zone, which I think is what this South Node is all about. His comfort zone became emotional detachment and kind of harshness and strictness, and that's what he clings to for emotional comfort, is that King of Swords within him. Okay, let's look at the astrological card. Okay, we have Aries. So you or your father could be an Aries, but Aries is all about independence, making your own decisions, doing what you know you need to do, pushing forward, starting something new. It's a very fiery, passionate sort of energy. And so I feel like what I'm hearing from your dad is that because of this turmoil within, as far as with the King of Swords versus the King of Cups, and this kind of flip-flopping back and forth and not really ever knowing which king to be, instead of merging the two kings and operating from that. It has also created a sense of codependency. Just like he learned not to trust humans, not to trust other people, and not to trust emotions, and this has kind of created this battle within him as well. He also doesn't know how to trust himself. That's the truth of it. And he can't see, his higher self sees that, but he himself can't see that. He doesn't know how to trust himself because he knows that there's this constant battle going on within him, and that's scary. So that has created a codependency on others for decision making, major decisions, or for emotional strength. Perhaps your dad has never really been single in his life, or isn't able to stay single for long. That is because of this sort of dependency. If he is comfortable with being single, or he's been single, then it would be more in relying on, like, what is the crowd doing? I'll do that. Or what does my friend say I should do? I'll do that. Or it's just like he's always kind of actually looking outside of himself to know how to guide himself. What's the world's definition of success? Okay, that's what I'm going to do. It's like he took away his own ability to kind of make his own decisions, decide what he thinks is right. He may also very much rely on religion. Could have become kind of a comfort and a crutch for him, because religion very clearly lays out, like, this is the rule, do this on Sundays, do that on, you know, Christmas, do like all these don't drink, don't whatever the rules are. It's like religion for some of your fathers could have become that codependent sort of thing where you know, he doesn't have to make those decisions because kind of his religion does that for him. Okay, so with this Aries energy coming up, your father's higher self, okay, wants you to carve your own path and wants you to become comfortable within yourself, to make decisions for yourself, to decide for yourself what you think is right, what you think is wrong. And he sees that in you. He feels, what I'm seeing right now, the imagery he's giving me is this fire, this campfire, okay, which is this Aries energy. And there's a light sort of rain and a mist that's starting to sprinkle on that fire and kind of dampening it, and it could potentially burn it out completely. Your father's higher self is watching this happen to you. And he doesn't want that to happen. He's saying, keep that fire burning strong. Don't let society or other people dampen that energy within you to just go, to like make that decision and just do it. And that bravery and that courageousness and creativeness within you, I don't want to see that die. I love that about you. All right. Okay, let's look at our Mona Lisa card. Okay. All right. So this has a negative phrase and a positive phrase on it. And this negative phrase is going to be something that your father has taught you. It's like subconsciously this negative phrase has come into your being, come into your mind due to watching your father or having a relationship with your father, etc. And it says, I'm right and they're usually wrong. I'm right and they're usually wrong. So that's an energy of like judgment and harshness and criticalness, okay? That you have somehow adopted from dad or picked up on from dad. And it could be because of the way that, it could be because of your relationship to him. Maybe at home he put on this sort of King of Swords energy quite strongly and was quite harsh and critical, and judgment, okay? Judgment of self and of others is coming through strongly here from your dad, okay? So if you do know that your dad can be a harsh judge of other people, just know that that also means that he very harshly judges his own self, okay? And I think this inner judgment is within you as well. You and your dad seem to be carrying a lot of the same sort of, you're here to help your family line, your ancestral line, work through a very similar type of karma. Okay, so your father's wanting you to flip this phrase to this. By being objective and having clarity, I know that true wisdom always transcends one person being right and the other person being wrong. And your father's wanting me to especially say this phrase to you because he's saying there are things in my life that I know my child has heard from me, and those were very harsh judgments of other people. Critical judgments of other people that I know I'm wrong about. Deep down, this really comes down to me not really accepting myself. And I want you to know that that harshness and that judgment that you see coming from me sometimes isn't my true essence, okay? So he's wanting to apologize for perhaps influencing your own thinking towards yourself or maybe towards others in this way, all right? Okay, our last card is our little angel card. I want to see what sort of angel is with your father's higher self or with you or within your relationship. Beautiful. I'm not surprised. Okay, it's the guardian angel of creativity. And look, there's that musical instrument. That child magical energy is giving me a lot of musical instruments, poetry, singing, dancing, writing. You and your father both have this creativity within you, or your father actually may have rejected. It could be that your father rejected that creativity within himself when he kind of started embracing this King of Swords. But you are creative, and that comes from him and what he was meant to be expressing. But for a lot of you, I think that dad does work in some sort of creative industry, or perhaps knows how to play an instrument or do something creative, and you get that from him. Okay, it says, creative energy flows for me the more I choose to express my feelings. Creative energy flows for me the more I choose to express my feelings. That is that battle going on here, where dad Dad feels like he has to choose. Am I going to be King of Swords or King of Cups? His creativity could be so much more strong, or will be much more strong, as he learns to start embracing this King of Cups within himself, okay? And especially if you all are in a creative industry, or maybe you don't even know that you're creative. If you don't, that's because of this same battle that you're dealing with, the same battle that Dad's dealing with. And that creative energy will start to flow as you embrace those emotions and embrace those feelings, okay? All right, what a beautiful message from your father, from your father's higher self. Please comment below. Let me know how it resonated. I always comment back. I like having conversations with you all down in the comments. And don't forget that next week, it's going to be a message from Mom. So make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss that video. And I will leave you here. I love you so, so much. Bye. Hi, group number 2. Welcome to your reading. I want to go ahead and roll my astrological die first just to get an overall energy feel for the reading, and then I'll show you the flower that you chose and what message is on that. Oop. Okay, we've got Saturn in Aries in the 7th house. Now, Saturn represents restrictions from the father. So where you see Saturn in your chart, that's going to show what sort of restrictions Dad imposed on you, or what sort of things you restricted in your life due to somehow the influence of your dad, okay? And Aries is our kind of divine masculine. It's a very masculine energy as well. And kind of our ability to decide for ourselves, you know, and not have to compromise with others. Now, the 7th house is all about the other. It's about our one-on-one relationships. So I'm getting a sense from that die that your father may have restricted your own kind of ability to make decisions for yourself or choose the sort of relationships you wanted in your life, but we'll see as we go into the reading. Okay, here's the flower that you chose. It's the tuberose, and it says, dangerous pleasure. And the quote underneath the card is, the secret of reaping the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment from life is to live dangerously. That sounds like that Aries energy of like, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. But then you've got Saturn there that's like, no, that's not the responsible thing to do, or like restricting in some way. So we'll see as we get into the reading, but your father's higher self, or your father, may kind of feel like he has to protect you constantly because he doesn't trust your decision making. So he feels like he has to be there, kind of like a helicopter parent. Okay, let me lay these out. I don't want to do these just yet. I want to do tarot first. Okay. So we have Queen of Wands. So that could be you. Perhaps you are an Aries or a Leo or a Sagittarius, or Dad is. Then we have the World. Now the World card is represented by Saturn. So this is lining up with the die perfectly. And then we have 6 of Wands, which is about victory and being recognized and praised for something. So your father's higher self wants you to know that he's on your team. He is on your side. He knows you're capable of succeeding, and he can't wait to watch you succeed, okay? And I feel like he's wanting to tell you this because maybe in everyday life or day-to-day life, he doesn't get this across to you enough. And maybe in day-to-day life, he's really just playing the role of boring old dad that says no to this, that, or the other. But he's wanting you to know that he knows that you are capable of so much and that your potential is so great, and he can't wait to watch you achieve and conquer life. You have this, this Queen of Wands is looking at me here, but you have this fiery, beautiful energy that kind of is very hard to contain. Kind of like when a fire starts in a forest, it's like if you don't contain it quickly, it's just going to spread everywhere. And your dad, that's how he views you. He feels very opposite. Dad almost feels earthy, okay? And your dad's higher self just wants you to know that if he ever is saying no to you, or feeling restrictive to you, he wants you to know that's truly, truly out of love. He is kind of a balance to your energy, all right? And you both reincarnated here together on purpose, because you're kind of this wildfire that can't be contained. And your father is very much this sort of grounded, very practical, do things very slowly, don't go too fast sort of energy. And he wants you to know that he needs you in his life just as much as you need him. So even if it may feel like, oh, dad's just here to kind of restrict me, or, be the typical boring dad, or if you ever feel like, gosh, dad just feels irritated with me all the time, or he must wish so badly that he had a child that was a little bit more like him, like I must just exhaust him. He wants you to know, no, that's not the case. You are the spark in his life. You bring his life this spark and this joy that was not there before you. And he needs you. He needs your energy, your bright, vibrant, wild and free sort of energy, just as much as you need his very grounded, stable sort of energy. And I don't know if he's ever told you that before, but he wants you to know that. Your father's higher self is grateful for you and to have you in his life. Because it's so much more vibrant and lighthearted with you in it. His soul needs you, okay? Maybe even a little bit more than you needed him, all right? And he just wants you to know that. And he is very proud of you. He's proud and astonished that someone like you could even come from his genetics, from who he is, because there's truly it's so opposite. And he's proud. And I see a lot of chuckling, okay? Like him chuckling, kind of thinking about cute and silly, crazy little things that you would do when you were little, or that you've done over the years. Like you seem like a bit like a daredevil, and I see him kind of thinking about those little memories and chuckling to himself. And he wants you to know that you bring laughter into his life. Gosh, I'm getting emotional on this reading, but it feels very emotional from him. Yeah, I see him kind of sitting on his porch and just kind of chuckling about these little memories. And you bring laughter, you bring joy into his life and into his heart and into his mind, because he feels kind of dull and boring, to be honest. If it wasn't for you, my gosh, his life would it definitely wouldn't be very exciting, okay? And I feel like you guys are going to hear that and think, well, I haven't really done that much, but you don't have to. It's like your energy around him just uplifts him. And but he always knew early on that he needed to play the role of that sort of strict, dull, stable sort of father, because that's what you needed for that balance. And he knew that. And so he's done a good job of fulfilling his little role as dad. And he looks at you and how you are growing and what you're going to grow into, and he sees victory. He sees victory as a father. He sees victory as into who you've become. And gosh, why does this happen sometimes in readings? I get emotional as images and things start coming through. And he wouldn't change a single thing about you. He's very proud of you. Okay, let's get into the oracle cards before I just burst into tears. Let's look at our interactive cards. All right, so from our interactive cards, there's just pictures on these. This is kind of a person meditating, looks like in the grass near a pond. And then we have this a rebel, right? That's your energy. That's not dad's energy. That's yours. I feel like both of these cards are your energy, because I feel like you started out more like this. You're still a little bit like this, a bit rebellious, a bit kind of like you like shock value, especially as a kid. And, just a little bit, I do what I want, kind of tough. Okay, this is very Aries energy here. And as you've gotten older, I feel like there's a calm. You've kind of taken that sort of rebellious energy and channeled it into your, I don't know, either a particular hobby. It could be spirituality in general, or it could be a hobby or something you do or create. And you kind of have this calmness about you now as you've gotten a bit older. You're still that rebellious little punk, but there's a calmness to you now. And it's almost like you're starting to embrace, I feel like, I don't know how old you are now, but I'll tell you this. As you get older, you're going to start to embrace more characteristics of your father within yourself. There's going to be some more similarities, where perhaps whenever you were a child or a teenager, you thought, am I even related to my dad? Like, I am so not ever going to be anything like my dad ever. And you're still very opposite to him. But it's like as you age and as you get older, you start appreciating some of your dad's kind of calm, peaceful, stable ways. He's gotten more peaceful as he's gotten older as well. But he's probably the type, that kind of does the same thing the same way all the time. Okay. Some of you may be into gardening, or if you're not, look into that, because I feel like you would really, really enjoy gardening or taking care of plants and things. That repetitive cycle of the gardening, you plant the seeds, you water it every day, and then things bloom, and then the next year you repeat that cycle. That repetitiveness of the cycle of gardening somehow is very healing to you. And I think it's something you and dad may have in common. Your father may be into kind of plants and gardening, or something that he does where it's like every year the same thing repeats. You got to keep repeating it. But yeah, I feel like if you're not very close with your dad right now, and you feel like so opposite of him right now, as you get older, the relationship with dad is going to kind of eclipse the relationship with mom. You're going to feel closer to him the older you get, okay, for whatever reason. And you're going to start feeling a little bit more similar to him, or just appreciate who he is a little more. All right, so we have the Alchemist, as well as the Child Eternal. Now, that is so your energy, this Queen of Wands, eternal child, and that's what dad loves about you so much, because it's almost like he was born an adult. Dad is like the eternal adult and you are his little eternal child. It says on that card, determination to remain young in body, mind, and spirit, and ability to see things with fresh eyes. And that's what you bring to him. I think that what I'm hearing from your dad's higher self is that you both, there's something you guys share and appreciate, whether that's gardening or like health in some sense, maybe certain special diets or food, something like that. But you're meant to, you and your father need something like that you do together. Okay. It could have to do with health, because we have Aries here, and I keep seeing like fruits and vegetables and things. Something like that would be good for you and your father to do together. But yeah, you're his little eternal child. Even if there are other kids, like even if you have siblings or something, what I'm hearing from your dad's higher self is that you are he actually feels closest to you, okay? His heart and soul feel more of an affinity, I guess, for you because of your sort of sense of humor and the way that you look at life. And he's just attached very much to your energy, okay? And he wants to see you more. That's also what I'm hearing. He wants to see you more. He wants to visit more, all right? So try and do that and create some sort of hobby with him. That would be really great. Okay, so the Alchemist says transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. So I feel like, your dad, what I'm hearing is that he may have been kind of restrictive with money, for example. Like he may have been he seems very like budget conscious and don't spend that. Like it feels like he didn't, as a child, he wasn't the type of dad that like showered you with gifts. You may have not had any extracurricular activities that you were in because of money reasons. It's like, it doesn't feel like you weren't a spoiled child. Okay. I'll put it that way. And what your dad is saying, his higher self is saying, is that wasn't because I care so much about money. He wants you to know that. Those decisions, the way he used his money and parented, wasn't because he loved money. It's because he loved you and he loved his kids. And he knew that in order for my children to grow up and be happy and feel victorious, okay, he wanted you to be able to achieve that victory in your own life. He knew that he couldn't spoil you by giving you absolutely everything, because that's how the alchemist creates. It takes a base motive. It takes, the alchemist can take the cheapest sort of metal and kind of turn it into gold, okay? So the other thing I'm hearing from dad is that you knew how to be very happy with very little. And that is such a gift, because so many people in today's society are never happy. Nothing is ever enough. And it's because they were spoiled at such a young age. And that leads to like depression and all sorts of things. And you've always been very happy with very little. And he wants you to know that he never wanted to spoil that for you. He always wanted you happy. And that's why he parented the way that he did, I guess, okay? So I'm not sure if you kind of I think he just wants you to understand that this all comes back, all of his decisions that he ever has made as a father have come back to him really thinking far into the future for his kids. Like he thinks way ahead, way further ahead than most people. And then kind of thinking, okay, well, I need to do this now in order for my kids to end up here 40, 50 years down the road, okay? All right, let's look at the astrological card. Okay, we have Sagittarius. So you may be a Sag, your father may be a Sag. Sagittarius is a very adventurous energy. So, but you know, Sagittarius is also the sign of like the professor, the person with the PhD or the doctorate. So I feel like you and your father both have this Sagittarius energy within you. You just express it very differently, okay? So like dad likely went to college, has a bachelor's, has a master's, you know, has some sort of career with some sense of prestige, all right? That's one way to express the Sagittarius energy. You are meant to express it in a more adventurous sort of way. So traveling more, experiencing more of life in a tangible sort of sense. So, travel the world. That's what the world card is often about. Go to those foreign countries you've always wondered about. That Sagittarius, and I feel like you guys have a desire for all of that already, and dad just wants you to know that comes from him, okay? That comes from him. He just took this Sagittarius energy and expressed it through his studies, okay? But that's where that adventurous spirit comes from. Okay, let's look at the Mona Lisa card. So the backside of this has two phrases. The first one is a negative phrase. The other one is a positive phrase. So I'm going to read them both. My immune system, bones, and joints are weak and vulnerable. Okay, that makes sense because I'm hearing a lot about the body and health and gardening and fruits and veggies for some reason from you guys. I feel like your father's health needs help from you, okay? And I refrained from saying it because I didn't want to freak anyone out. And there's nothing like urgent about this, okay? But since I'm seeing this, I'm going to go ahead and say it. There's something with your dad's health that needs some assistance or influence from you all. I don't know if it's going on walks or exercising more or some sort of change in his diet or activity or medicine or something, but he needs some sort of influence from you in that. So, and I feel like most of you kind of know where that influence would be, or you've probably thought about that before, like, oh, dad really should eat this instead of that, or dad needs to go on more walks or something, okay? I don't want to freak anyone out by that, but yeah, you and dad are somehow meant to partner up in regards to health, okay? I'm going to try and leave that as vague as possible because, people jump to like worst case scenario conclusions when I talk about health, and it's not that at all. But something with health or food or eating or exercising is supposed to be like a bonding thing for you all. And it's going to help improve his health when you start doing that. Okay, the second phrase on this says, and this is the positive phrase, I feel safe and secure in the world. I have multiple families who help me feel like I belong, am supported, and have a say. I feel safe and secure in the world. I have multiple families who help me feel like I belong, am supported, and have a say. So what I will say with this, because these phrases are related, when you take away the negative, it's replaced with the positive. And the negative is health issues, right? Or at least being worried about health issues. So if your father is having health issues of any sort, just know that the root cause of a lot of that, and potentially the cure for that, is feeling more connected to people. He may be lonely in some sense, either physically or just emotionally. I'm not sure if you're still living with him or, how old you are, how that all works, but he does need to feel more connected to others. I don't feel like it's a strong suit of his to really like open up and be vulnerable and all of that, but really you just being around him, people just being around him and talking and doing things would help him a lot and would help his health. Okay, let's see what angel is with you and your father. The angel of harmony. It says, I live in harmony when I am at one with source. So for some of you that chose this pile, your father may have actually passed away. That may have been why you came to this reading. If that's the case, then that could be why some of those health things that I've been talking about, more connection and prayer and communication with your father if he's passed on would be so, so good. But for those of you who dad is still here with, this angel is still here with you physically, this angel of harmony, it really does feel like you and your dad's relationship. This whole reading has felt quite harmonious. You guys are very opposite, but there's something so good about your connection and so loving. And you guys have a more harmonious relationship, or are meant to, than most people get with their dad. There's a calm sort of energy between the two of you. I don't get a lot of feeling of like tension or regret or things like that. It's very harmonious. It's very peaceful. And the more often you two are together, the more time you make for dad, the more peaceful you're going to feel as well, because that's the exchange of energy between the two of you. Okay. Well, comment below and let me know how this resonated, and maybe how you're going to, what ideas you have as far as hobbies you and your dad could do together, or communication more often, or whatever. And I'll comment back. I always do. I like talking with you guys down in the comments. What a beautiful relationship you and your dad have. It's just beautiful. This is the type of relationship that feels so easy in a lot of ways, and so many people would be jealous. So feel very lucky. You should feel very lucky. But yeah, comment below so we can have a conversation down there. And I love you, and I will see you in the next reading. Bye. Hi, group number 3, and welcome to your reading. The first 2 readings have been so lovely, so great. One of those was actually a little bit emotional to get through. It was just so sweet. So I can't wait to see what your reading has in store. Let me show you the flower that you picked. It's called the nasturtium. I think I'm saying that correctly. Beautiful red flower. It says on the card, victory and conquest. And the quote says, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." So let me roll the astrological die, kind of get an overall energy read for the reading. Okay, we have 10th house of career, South Node, and Taurus. So you or your father may be a Taurus. And there could be, so 10th house is about our career and our legacy and our achievements, okay? Which that kind of lines up with the victory and conquest phrase on the flower that you chose. And now South Node is about our kind of comfort zone, what we're used to. It's about our past, from the age like 0 to about 30 previous lifetimes. It's like our comfort zone. So for you all, that comfort zone might be the 4th house of home and family. But there's something, your dad's higher self wants to talk to you about your career and your legacy, as well as this Taurus energy of kind of stability and financial security and all of that. So we'll see how that plays out as we get into the cards. So let's start with the tarot, and then we'll look at our oracle cards. Oh my gosh, we have the Hierophant, which is Taurus. So I just love it when I get surprises like that. Things line up. But okay, Taurus. So you or your father may be a Taurus. Then we have 2 of Cups. How sweet. Which is a very healing relationship. As well as 7 of Cups, which is this sort of dreamy, imaginative sort of state. So you all feel very, there's a lot of cups here. So there's a lot of emotional fulfillment here. Your dad may have had a very strong influence in your kind of belief systems, maybe what sort of religious beliefs you have. Dad feels like this, he feels like more of this sort of Taurus-y energy about kind of stability and structure and achievement, but at a slow, steady sort of pace. And what I'm hearing from your dad is that there may be a feeling of judgment in your everyday life in regards to dad, and he just wants you to know that that's his own indoctrination. His beliefs were indoctrinated through someone else, and then through someone else and someone else. He sees, at least his higher self acknowledges, that you are really someone who follows your emotions. If something doesn't resonate for you emotionally, then you're not going to follow it. And at least your dad's higher self wants you to know that he really applauds that. He understands you. His higher self truly understands you. And he thinks that it's beautiful that you want your life to be emotionally fulfilling. Imaginative even, okay? You feel very sort of creative, and you feel very laid back and easygoing, all right? And he feels kind of opposite of that. And he just wants you to know, like, from his higher self and that perspective and who he is at a soul level, he completely understands you, completely understands you. And there may have been some relationships even in your past that he was very disapproving of. I feel that strongly. Like, he seems like the type who would much rather have like an arranged marriage or, a marriage for the purposes of stability and financial security. You gravitate towards relationships that tug at your emotions more, which is what most of us do nowadays anyway. But it feels like there may be, like, maybe you married outside of your race or your culture or your background or your religion. And he was very disapproving of that, or didn't really ever warm up to it, okay? And he's coming through right now to say that he apologizes for that, and he approves. His higher self can see how healing, emotionally fulfilling as well, this relationship is for you. Now, for some of you that picked this pile, you haven't met this person yet, but you will, and dad's going to be a bit standoffish because this person's going to be, I don't know, in a career your dad doesn't like, or from like I said, a background, a race, culture, country, religion that he doesn't like. And he brought you to this reading to let you know that even though he is going to be standoffish potentially in real life, his higher self acknowledges that this relationship is beautiful and is healing for you, okay? All right, so let's look at the interactive cards. All right, so we have the partier here, the hippie partier, as well as the superhero. Now I'm going to pull some tarot cards because the message isn't very clear to me for those two cards. So let me ask for clarification. Spirit and, okay. Could you please clarify these interactive cards? Okay, so to clarify those interactive cards, we have the Tower, as well as Four of Cups. Okay, so your dad's wanting to come through and acknowledge that I think he restricted you. It's like he wanted to pick and choose your emotional fulfillment, okay? He wanted to pick and choose what you were meant to do for career, for hobbies, for friendships, all of this. And he kind of starved you emotionally. He's wanting to acknowledge that emotional starvation, where it's like you couldn't choose or express yourself creatively, okay? There was some sort of moment that happened, like an explosion. Yeah. Something happened, whether it was like a car accident or a move, something, okay? And I feel like you may either like wonder why that moment happened, or you may have regrets or guilt over things, but he wants to acknowledge that that's because of him. That's his fault, okay? So maybe you fell into addiction for a while, or maybe you got with a person who was very abusive, or I don't know. It's like it's kind of almost like once you got a little bit of freedom from dad, you kind of went nuts, and you have some things in your past that you regret, but your dad is wanting to say, please don't blame yourself. That's my fault. I starved you emotionally. And so of course you did the things that you did after being starved, or felt that you needed to kind of escape or do something really radical. That's my fault. He wants you to not carry that burden or that guilt or that regret anymore, because that was his fault. That's just what I'm hearing. Please let them know that that's my fault, and I take full responsibility for that. At least my higher self does. But I do feel that now things are back to being things are balancing out for you now. You know how they say when the they talk about, there's a phrase about the pendulum swinging, and it swings all the way to one side and then it swings all the way to the other before it kind of falls back down into the middle. So he's saying it was my fault. I'm the one who started that pendulum swing. I held it way up over here, this very emotionally restrictive side. So when you had your freedom, turned 18, were able to move out of the house, there was no other way you could have gone except, that's when that pendulum dropped out of my hand. It had to swing all the way to the other side before things could calm down and fall in the middle where they always should have been. Okay, so he's just really wanting to acknowledge that that's his fault. But now I do see things balancing out for you, kind of being much more peaceful. Your creativity and your imagination is coming back in, and you have these sort of healing relationships either in your life right now or coming into your life in the future. Okay, all right, let's look at the archetype. We have the storyteller, as well as, the mystic. And it's the storyteller says ability to experience and express life through stories and symbols. And the mystic says revels in intimate union with the divine. You guys do feel very spiritual, and I do feel that you came from a restrictive sort of religious background from dad. Okay, with storyteller and mystic, your father is wanting to come through to tell you that you have, or acknowledge that you have a talent for communicating information to others from the divine. It's almost like you have your own inner religious text like within you, and you're able to communicate and speak that out to others in a way that heals them, that teaches them things. And he wants to acknowledge that talent of yours. And acknowledge that you, if you want to pursue this talent as a means of for career, because we have 10th house here, he supports that and he thinks you should do it. So some of you may be interested in tarot reading or being an astrologer, or if not, then having some sort of a YouTube channel or writing a book or something like that. And your dad wants you to know that he supports that. And he thinks that or if you're already doing it, he thinks you're fantastic at it. Yeah, it's I'm just seeing I'm seeing a Bible actually, okay, but this doesn't have to do with any particular religion, but I'm seeing a Bible here in your chest, all right? And then it's the words are coming out of your mouth. So perhaps your father was worked for a church or something, and maybe he's acknowledging this because it's something you've inherited from him. He has this ability to speak words from the divine to others as well. But so it could be that, but you have this talent and you're meant to use it in your career somehow for others. Okay. And yeah, and his higher self supports you in that endeavor. Yeah, interesting. Okay. So the astrological card that came through is Scorpio. Ooh. So you or your dad may be a Scorpio. Your North Node may be in Scorpio. Actually, that's what I'm hearing or feeling. It could be in Scorpio, or it could be in the 8th house. Or your 10th house of career is in the sign of Scorpio. With this storyteller and mystic, you are meant to do something in your career that's related to the occult or spirituality, or I don't know, communicating hidden things, hidden knowledges, hidden texts. And I don't know if you've realized it, but this sort of career that you're meant to go into is inspired somehow by dad, by your father, or by your father's ancestral line. This is an inherited talent, okay, through his line of the family, if that makes sense. That's why you gravitate towards darkness in people and in others. Psychology could even be a great way to express this. You gravitate towards that darkness. And I think you gravitated towards the wrong type of darkness in your younger years when you kind of rebelled. But I feel that you've cleansed yourself of all that, and now you're meant to gravitate towards this different sort of darkness, a healthy sort of darkness, like occult and spirituality and tarot and astrology and all of that sort of stuff, psychology, all of that. That's going to be really fulfilling. And so, yeah, your father just wants to acknowledge that, hey, this is meant to be your career. And even though it may seem like I'm against it in real life, my higher self knows that this was meant to be your career, and that it actually comes from me or from my ancestral line, okay? All right, so for the Mona Lisa card. It has a negative phrase and then a positive phrase. So I'll read them both. The negative phrase said, if I could only say it the right way, they would agree with me. If I could only say it the right way, they would agree with me. And the healthy version of that phrase is, there are multiple ways to look at any situation. There are multiple ways to look at any situation. So yeah, I feel like this, your father has this Taurus sort of stubborn, it is what it is kind of energy. And I feel like that's come out on you throughout your life. He's projected that sort of stubbornness, and this is the right way, that's the wrong way. And so he just wants to acknowledge that at a soul level, his higher self knows that there's nothing wrong with the way you look at things. There's a million different ways to be right and a million different ways to be wrong. And yeah, he just wants to acknowledge that. I don't think there's a way for him to correct it now in his day-to-day life. So his higher self is just wanting to let you know. But he also wants you to know that that stubbornness, that sense of rightness, that is, you know, an inherited trait that you may battle with as well. So just as much as he's never going to be able to convince you that what he believes is the right way, okay, you're also never going to be able to convince him that what you believe is the right way. And the best thing that you guys can do, at least what he's saying, is to just lay off of each other, like let each other be, you know, who you each are. And stop feeling a need to like convert one another. He wants you to go do your own thing. For sure. He supports that. You kind of in career and your spiritual beliefs and all of that. It's just, it's not going to come out, you know, in day-to-day life that way. And he just wants you to be okay with that, to know that like, look, this is who I incarnated as, and, you know, just accept me and I'll accept you. Okay. All right, so the angel that's with you and your dad, is the angel of eternal love. It says, as I let love in, it stays in my soul forever. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a second message here. You and your father have had a past life together, or many past lives together. And I'm not sure if it's as, you know, father and daughter or father and son, or in some other capacity, but at a soul level, there's a deep connection between the two of you, and you've been through so much together. And what I hear him saying is like, I can only wish or hope that eternal love gets to be fully expressed in this lifetime, because he does know that he's quite stubborn, okay? But he just wants you to know that you guys have had so many lifetimes together, so many fantastic lifetimes together, and your souls just kind of gravitate towards one another to where you kind of just end up always being in each other's lives in any given lifetime. I would recommend checking out I have 1 or 2 videos on my channel, Pick a Card readings, for past life stories. So you may want to check one of those out and try and see maybe what your past life with your dad was all about. And yeah, what sort of things you all did together. But yeah, this was a really, really good reading. I like it mostly because your dad came through to kind of give you direction in your career, which is fantastic. So just try and be confident and comfortable in the fact that at a soul level, your dad loves who you are. There's a deep connection there. And even though in this lifetime, you guys may have ended up quite different from one another, just kind of both stepping into an acceptance that like he is who he is, I am who I am, and that's okay, would be very healing for your relationship. To not try and impose, you know, or if dad's trying to impose some belief on you, you not even feeling the need to argue back with it. Like, do what you need to do, but don't even engage in trying to convince, all right? But yeah, beautiful reading. I would love to know if you all have a YouTube channel, or if you're doing tarot readings or anything like that, like what I'm doing, just because I'm picking up on it from these cards. So comment that below, or if there's any ideas you've been thinking about doing as far as career goes. And I will see you all in the next reading. Love you. Hi, group number 4, and welcome to your reading. I can't wait to see what message your dad has for you. Let me start with showing you the flower that you chose, which was the tulip, which is such a beautiful flower. It says, friendship and gratitude. Let us be grateful for the people who make us happy. They are the charming gardeners who make our souls blossom. How sweet. So maybe there's a deep friendship between you and your father. Or what I'm also hearing for some of you whose father isn't physically with you or has maybe passed on or lives far away, his higher self comes through to you via your friends and people you're really close with. That's how he kind of communicates with you in that way. Okay, let's roll the astrological die and kind of get an overall energy feel for the reading. Okay, we have Scorpio, Jupiter, and 7th house. So 7th house is about our very close one-on-one relationships. And with Scorpio and with Jupiter, I am feeling for most of you, not all, that your father has passed on. Maybe you lost him at a young age, or maybe you never knew him. Maybe he lives at a distance or just was absent in some way. And his higher self is saying that even though it's almost like bits of his soul have been scattered about through other people that you've loved in order to communicate with you or develop a relationship with you in that way, okay? That sounds so odd, and maybe I'll be able to expand on that more as we get into the tarot cards and see if there's other avenues this goes into. Okay, so we have the Justice card. So that's Libra energy. So you or your father may be a Libra. King of Pentacles, that's Earth energy. So dad could have been a Taurus, Capricorn, or Virgo. Here's Queen of Swords. So I'm thinking you all are the Libras. You could be Aquarius or Gemini as well. And then we have Page of Cups. Interesting. Okay, so for some of you that came to this reading, that you weren't looking for a message from your biological father. It's almost, something's mixed up. Like maybe your grandfather was a father to you, or an uncle was a father to you, or your adopted father. There's something like that going on here. And what I'm also hearing is that for those of you who, the father has passed away, he was reincarnated or will be reincarnated as your child, as a young son, or through one of your nieces or nephews. His energy is there. As well as he is with the Libra energy and the 7th house. There's something to do with spouse and marriage coming up as well, where it's like your father chose who you were going to marry in some way. Yeah, chose who you were going to marry, or is planning on choosing who you will be with. And somehow, and it could be maybe the person you're meant to marry already has a child from a previous marriage, and that is actually your father. This reading, everything's feeling very kind of mixed up and intertwined, and it's hard, and maybe it's because the message is kind of different for everybody. But yeah, so let me get kind of into the other cards and we will kind of see. Okay, so from the interactive deck, we have this card, which is a woman reading. It's kind of giving me that air energy as well, reading a book. Aw. And then we have this beautiful image of the woman kind of dancing out with the flowers. Your father, he watches you in the moments that you are alone. He watches you in the evenings when you're reading, when you're watching TV. He watches you when you are, I'm also seeing that he speaks to you through birds and animals, okay? So watch out for those sort of signs and synchronicities. When a bird kind of comes across your path, he speaks to you through nature, okay? Through flowers, through nature, through gardening, all of these sorts of ways he comes through for you. And there is either like a certain book that you love, that I think you and your father have similar taste in, I don't know, movies or TV shows or books or journaling. Something with books is a shared interest or activity from you and your father. He also wants to say that he is really, really proud of what a balanced person you are. And he says that he takes a lot of pride in that. You're a very balanced person. You're very smart. You're someone that people come to for advice. You may even be interested in like law in some capacity, or, you know, the justice system, or yeah, some sort of career where it's like people are receiving important advice from you on how to move forward. Okay. Or maybe just in your day-to-day life, you're that person that people come to for advice, and your father is really proud of that. You would be really good in like insurance or estate planning, like all that sort of stuff. You'd be really great at. Your father is, I just see him observing. That's why I feel like for most of you, he has passed on. But I just see him like observing things from above until he is reincarnated once again through a small child of yours, I believe. But he talks to you through nature, through books, and through your one-on-one relationships, like through your spouse, through your friends, all these sorts of things. Okay, yeah, we have the shapeshifter. So yeah, he shapeshifts into the flower, into the bird, into that conversation with that friend, into the books. He comes through for you in all of these different ways. And his purpose is enlightenment, expansion, and spiritual wisdom. That is the role he's meant to play for you in your life, giving you enlightenment, expansion, spiritual wisdom, and knowledge, as well as educational knowledge. And he's just saying like the best way for him to serve that purpose for you, because you are meant to be in some sort of guidance position for others. And for some reason, the best way for him to serve that purpose for you is through a more distant perspective, okay? That's why there's a distance there between you and Father, whether that be physical or because he's passed on. He just wants you to know that, I don't know, he just wants you to know that you are who you are and who you are created to be due to the way things are in our relationship. Okay, I guess that's the best way I can put it. You are that way due to these things, and your whether you realize it or not, your marriage, like you wouldn't have gravitated towards the partner that you're meant to marry if not for, it's like your father's relationship plays a crucial role in choosing your marriage partner and having this ability to guide others in your career. Okay, let me look at the other card. Oh yeah, we have Mother. It says nurturance, patience, unconditional love, and joy in giving birth to life. This is that son. You're meant to give birth to a son that will be a reincarnation of your father. Also, I feel like Mother, for you, played the most significant role in your life. Father feels kind of distant. Like I said, I'm seeing him kind of view everything from a distance or from far above. But he does want you to know that his influence on you does exist. He shapeshifts into different things and conversations in order to have a relationship with you. I hope I'm making sense, because this particular reading feels so mixed up, and I know I keep saying that, but I hope this is making sense. If it's making sense for you, comment down below and kind of explain how these puzzle pieces all come together, because I'm just viewing them kind of scattered about. Let me look at the astrological card. Okay, we have Cancer. So Cancer is the sign of the mother. You may be Cancer, your father or mother may have been, but Cancer represents motherhood. So there's something really, really important in a child. And this is the other thing I feel like I need to say. Some of you may have come here because you wanted a message from your biological father, but who is coming through is your grandfather, who was a more fatherly figure to you than your biological father was. But he's the one that's coming through. And it's because he's wanting to talk to you about this sort of reincarnation through your child, okay? Or I don't know, for some of you, yeah, it's like you came here wanting a message from maybe your grandfather, but the biological father's coming through, or it's something like that. Because this is a message from someone who is passed on, who's coming through for you, this sort of fatherly energy, okay? All right, so this card has a negative phrase on it and then the positive phrase that goes with it. Let me read this. It says, "What I have to say rarely matters." And the positive phrase is, "When my mind and heart are aligned, what I have to say reveals genuine integrity, which makes people want to listen to me." What I'm hearing from your father or fatherly figure is that he actually suffered with this idea that what he had to say didn't matter. So, and it'll be different for all of you, but I feel like for some of you, he was just a person who didn't open up much, or he ran away from a lot of things, or from relationships, or he avoided things because he felt overall that what he had to say didn't matter. It wasn't going to change anything. It wasn't going to make any difference. Okay. That was a kind of a negative aspect to him, I guess. And that influenced you on some sort of level, because you all, like I said, this Queen of Swords energy, you are meant to be in some sort of career where what you have to say is everything. It's extremely important. But you all feel more confident in that. Like that's a strong point of yours, is this confidence to speak with integrity and speak powerfully. And your father just wants to acknowledge that he sees that in you. He's so proud of that within you. And he's around you all the time, more than you realize. And he wants you to start picking up on little signs and synchronicities from him. Okay, the final card is the angel that's with you and your dad. It's the angel of knowing. This says, my sense of inner knowing leads me to the light. My sense of inner knowing leads me to the light. So I feel like on some level, you've either like blocked off these signs and synchronicities, or maybe you have paid attention to them, but you thought, oh, maybe that's not anything. Maybe that doesn't mean anything. And your father's like, stop doing that. Yes, it's me. You know deep down that it's me. Okay, you have this inner knowing about it. Now just believe in that, because it is me. And yeah, he communicates to you through a lot of different people and things around you. And he will definitely communicate to you through your children, and perhaps even through your own mother as well. So beautiful, beautiful reading. I couldn't get a whole lot of imagery from this reading because it was just being kept at a distant level for me. So I hope that that resonated with you. And I'd love to know in the comment section below, like how it pieces together. Because it felt very spread out, okay? This was a tough one for me, but I hope that your father was able to get his message across. You know, sometimes spirit and deceased loved ones, they're like, I don't need to give you all the information because they'll know what I'm talking about. So I feel like it was one of those situations. But I love you guys so much, and thank you so much for allowing me to, provide this reading to you. And I want to thank your father as well for coming through and allowing me to convey this message to you from him. He loves you so much, and he's around you all the time, like the reading kept saying. And keep that strong voice of yours that you all have, and that important guidance that you provide to others. And you have beautiful, beautiful children in your future. Somehow, some way, you do. You're going to be a mother in some capacity, and this child is going to have the energy and the little spirit and soul of your father, okay? All right, I love you guys. I will see you in the next reading. Bye. Hi Pile 5, welcome to your reading. Go ahead and make yourself comfy. I want to show you the flower that you all chose, the primrose. I was actually wanting my daughter's middle name to be Primrose. This is back 8 years ago when I was pregnant. My husband adamantly denied that for me. I mean, it made sense why, because you can't really say primrose in Portuguese. And my husband's family, they all speak Portuguese. They're from Brazil, but I just love the name Primrose. I think it's so sweet. So, and there's a little butterfly here on your flower as well. This card says, youthful love. If I had a single flower for every time I think of you, I could walk forever in my garden. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, okay, let's roll the astrological die, get an overall energy feel for the reading. We have Moon, Taurus, and 4th house. The moon and all of these, okay, the moon, Taurus, and the 4th house, these are all houses and signs and planets that correspond with the mother. I don't know why that's sticking out for me, but the moon has to do with kind of our emotions and our psychology and our mind, our feelings. And Taurus has to do with, our stability, our money, our finances, our possessions, kind of what we're growing. And the fourth house has to do with our home, our roots, and our ancestry, our childhood, as well. So, I'm interested to see what this reading is going to bring up for you, but it'll touch on those sorts of themes. So let's start with the tarot, and then we will look at our oracle cards. Okay, we have 6 of Pentacles, and this card is actually Moon in Taurus. So that's crazy that the Moon die and the Taurus die came up. This is Moon in Taurus. Okay, 6 of Pentacles. The Hermit, this is Virgo energy, so you or your father may be Virgos or have it strongly in your chart. Then we have the 7 of Wands, as well as the Queen of Pentacles. So I feel like that could be you, or it could be mom, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. So we have a lot of earth energy here. Taurus, Virgo, interesting. So, okay, so with that Hermit energy, that Virgo energy, Virgo is an earth sign, and it's very grounded and practical. But, in the tarot deck, the Hermit, which means Virgo, is kind of this old, wise, spiritual man who spends a lot of time in solitude, kind of observing things from afar and soul searching. So for some of you, that could represent kind of how you view your father as kind of an introverted man who preferred solitude and his own alone time, but also like a very practical and down-to-earth sort of person. But your father's wanting you to know, whether he says it or not, that he's really proud of the very generous person that you are. He recognizes the generosity within your heart and within the things that you do for others, as well as your perseverance. You are the type of person who really, you work very hard to get what you want. You don't give up either. You're not someone to start something and then abandon it. You really do things step by step by step by step. And he also loves the people that are in your life as well, is what I'm hearing. You've really surrounded yourself with a group of people and friendships and family, and that he loves that about you, because it feels like your father, or what I'm hearing from him, is he may have had a bit of a hard time connecting with people. Like, I don't feel like he was surrounded by a whole lot of people, but you really have a lot of nurturing, loving relationships in your life, and he loves that for you, and he loves that about you, because there's a lot of loyalty within you as well that he sees. You're very loyal, very generous, and very hardworking. And what I'm hearing is he feels that you became that way despite him, like there's a sadness, there's a tinge of sadness there with that. It's like, what I'm hearing is, all the things that I love about my daughter are all, or I didn't mean to say daughter, some of you could be sons. All the things I love about my child are things that she became in spite of me, So it's almost like there's a bit of a sadness. Your dad wants you to know that, before you guys came down into this reincarnation, there were things that he kind of had to do that were related to his own karma that he knew he was going to have to do when he came down into this lifetime. Okay, sorry, the phone cut out for just a bit, but I am back. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that your father realizes and wants to acknowledge, I think he's even aware in the current lifetime of this, like not just in his higher self, but his regular day-to-day self is aware of this, that everything you have become, all these great things that you have become or developed within your personality, are in spite of him. And he knows that. And he loves who you become, but then he's sad at the same time, because he knows you only became these great things because of his shortcomings and the ways that he failed you. Kind of like, how certain things in our life we do because someone inspired us to do it. We watched someone do it, and then we were like, oh, I'm going to do exactly what they did. And then other things we do in our life are because we've watched other people do things a certain way and end up miserable or make mistakes. And so then we think, okay, I'm going to do the opposite of that because I saw what happened to this person. That's kind of the role that your father has played in your life. So for whatever reason, he feels like absent in a sense, or like you didn't really grow up with him, or he just wasn't like very close with you, or he's just his own sort of kind of messed up person. I feel like he knows that about himself, though. He feels kind of hard on himself even in this lifetime, but he just wants to come through and let you know how much he really cares for you, and that he's, so proud of he just loves your personality. He just thinks you're so sweet and nurturing and stable, and he just admires you, I guess is the best word for it. Okay, let's look at our interactive cards. Okay, first we have this picture, which always reminds me of Jesus. This isn't a religious deck, though, but that's just what I always feel from this card. And then we have this card with the lonely girl. Yeah, I was going to mention something earlier, but I wanted kind of more confirmation just to make sure. I feel like a lot of you who picked this pile, your father suffers from either mental illness like depression, bipolar, or even addiction issues like drinking and smoking or gambling, or some sort of addiction issue. He is very hard on himself, and he has a hard time receiving love and he wants you to know it's because he hates himself so much and feels like, subconsciously he feels like he doesn't deserve love. So any sort of action that would be self-loving, or even love coming in from other people, like attempts at love coming in from other people, loving opportunities, or guidance, he will reject. He'll turn a blind eye to it. And it's not because he hates that person or dislikes the offer. It's not because he doesn't want to see a better life for himself. He wants to, he just feels like he doesn't deserve it. So, there's a lot of like sorry and apology coming through in this pile. Your father just really wants to apologize. But again, it's this weird thing of, I want to say sorry and I wish I could take that all back, but I also know that if I took all of that back and was who he or she needed me to be, then, my child wouldn't have grown up to have all of these amazing qualities that they have. So he feels conflicted. That's the best way to put it. Very conflicted, and very there's a big lack of self-love from your father. Okay, let's look at the archetype. We have the seeker, as well as the healer. Beautiful. So that seeker, it says, let me read the card. It says, thirst for wisdom and truth wherever they are. The healer says, passion to serve others by repairing the body, mind, and spirit, and ability to help transform pain into healing. So yeah, the seeker card is just making me think of like travel and distance. And then with that healer card, I feel like so because of whatever you experienced from your, father, I feel like it inspired, what you had compassion for and what you were passionate about in your life. Maybe what you wanted to fix or heal for others and for people, and how you were going to kind of inject that healing or that happiness or that love into the world for yourself. And your father just wants, to acknowledge that, you truly are. You're a very giving person, like I keep saying, very generous. But not only that, your energy is very healing for others. And you heal. What I'm hearing is like you are healing his mistakes for him, kind of. Like the karma that he has accrued for himself in this lifetime, that he's rejected kind of dealing with, or doesn't know how to undo and, undo that knot within him. It's like you have unconsciously taken that on, and you are counteracting for any sort of negative or bad thing he puts into the universe. Your actions that you are taking upon yourself emit the opposite energy of healing and of love. So you're kind of a savior for him in a lot of ways, and he views you that way, and his soul definitely does. You have taken burdens off of his shoulders karmically and spiritually that should have been his to bear. And you've just been so gracious to kind of help him in this way. I don't think you realize how much you have helped him. And I don't know if you realize how much he thinks about you. And not just, he doesn't just think about you, he thinks about you and then beats himself up for every, like he really beats himself up really, really bad. And I don't know, for each one of you, it may be, different if he expresses that in the outside world or if he just holds it in. But like, if you've ever wondered, would my father ever apologize to me? Or is he even aware of what sort of pain he's caused me, or anger or frustration? If you've ever wondered, just know, he wants you to know, like, that is on a loop in his head 24/7. He is just weighing himself down with guilt over things. And I wish that I could, I almost wish he would stop doing that to himself, because it could help lift him back up again. He's self-punishing so badly that it's like he's never going to, climb out of that hole. And maybe he does a good job of holding it together or putting on an act for the outside world so they don't know, but it still doesn't matter, because inside he feels lonely and, and guilty. So, okay, from the astrological deck, we have Capricorn. So you or your father could be Capricorn. Capricorn is, we already have the Taurus die here, and Virgo, and the Queen of Pentacles. So very strong, earthy energy. And, I think that you are going to, Capricorn is the sign of like achievement, really working hard and achieving something important, really creating a legacy, really being able to kind of withstand the tough hurdles that life throws your way. And your father knows that that's exactly who you are. And he knows that it's the opposite of who he is. And he just admires you. There's almost an energy of just absolute obsession here, because of how often he thinks about you, how much he regrets, how much guilt he has, how much admiration he has for you. And yeah, he's definitely struggling to like think through, what is the meaning of life? If I wasn't a bad person, or if I hadn't made these mistakes, my daughter wouldn't have been this gorgeous, generous spirit with healing, capabilities for the world. So does that mean that I should have always been, bad and making mistakes and negative? Or like he's really like, he wants to figure out the meaning of life and why life works the way it does. And like, he's really trying to wrap his head around all of that. So if there's any way in your real reality, and of course this is only if this is something you would feel comfortable with or want to do, but if there was any way in your day-to-day reality to reach out to your dad and kind of say these things, I don't know, I just feel like it would be very healing for him. I don't know that it would cure him, but it would be very healing for him to, hear those things. Okay, so from the Mona Lisa card, there is a negative phrase on one side and a positive phrase on the other. So let's read this. The negative one says, "Intimate relationships interfere with my freedom." The positive says, "It is possible to maintain one's individual creative identity and also be in an intimate, committed relationship." Yeah, you know that. And you learned that through your father somehow, either negatively, through in a negative way or a positive way. Your father definitely feels like he's still on the negative end of that phrase, though. Hopefully not, maybe I'm more in like past energy, but he definitely doesn't think anyone deserves to put up with what's going on in his mind or what's going on in his heart or, anything like that. And it's almost like being alone in this solitude sort of energy. That's the only time he can really wallow and be depressed and not worried about someone stressing out or being worried about it, or so he definitely needs to know that he can be himself fully, and still have close relationships. But he truly just thinks so little of himself that he just, as of right now, he wouldn't allow that to happen. He's a very sensitive soul, almost like too sensitive. He doesn't have your Capricorn energy of this kind of toughness and stability and practicality and down to earth and, like you do. Okay, let's look at what angel is with you and your father's energy. Ooh, Archangel Michael. Beautiful, very powerful angel. It says, I stand for justice and truth. I live from my integrity. I stand for justice and truth, and I live from my integrity. Integrity, that's a great word to sum up kind of the energy of you and your father's relationship. You have such integrity about you. And I think you learned the importance of integrity because of your father's lack of integrity. Your father doesn't know how to truly have integrity and authenticity. He's scared to. He feels like it would be burdensome for the world if he, had this sort of integrity and authenticity and was transparent for others. And Archangel Michael, that's kind of the energy he brings in, truth and integrity, and justice with the scales there. So I think that this pile was really interesting because I'm feeling strongly called to tell you to, if you can, reach out and have a conversation with your father and communicate some things. Have some integrity and, get some things out there. Maybe related somehow, hopefully kind of with him coming through, with his higher self coming through in this reading, you found out some things that maybe you didn't know that will be helpful in navigating a conversation or an interaction with him in a way that could be really healing, and maybe encourage him, maybe it will encourage him to open up a little bit and maybe forgive himself some. For all of you, it'll be different because I'm not sure what sort of things he has done, what sort of mistakes, but he does truly, truly feel remorse and guilt unlike any other. That is very apparent in this reading. So anyways, comment below. Let me know how the reading resonated. Let me know kind of what things you discovered through this reading that you didn't know, wouldn't have otherwise known. And I love you so much. I'll be praying for you and your father's relationship and good communication and closure, or, progress forward, all of that. And I'll see you in the next reading. Love you. Bye. Hi, group number 6, and welcome to your reading. Go ahead and have a seat, get comfy, and let's see what your father's higher self would like to convey to you. Let me start by showing you the flower that you picked. This is the anemone. Hope I'm saying that right. Various colors, very pretty flower. It says anticipation. The quote says, I felt like an arrow, pulled back and ready to be launched into something big. So you guys may have some sort of event coming up, an important event coming up in your life that your father wants to speak about. This anticipation could be an event that has to do with getting back in touch with him or getting into contact with him or meeting up with him, something that he's kind of antsy or maybe a bit nervous about. But let's roll the astrological die, get an overall energy feel for the reading. Okay, we have Mercury in Taurus in the 11th house. Taurus has come up on the die, I think, in 3 other piles already. That's insane. So with Mercury here, your dad or you could be a Gemini or a Virgo. Mercury is about communication, short distance trips, meetups. 11th house is about our larger friendship groups, and the larger organizations that we're a part of. So there may be, some sort of conversation or meetup that's taking place. Your father may feel more like a friend or a distant acquaintance, maybe more than dad. And, kind of probably what you may most value or have learned from your dad has to do with money, finances, and possessions, and maybe, creating some stability for yourself. So it feels like, as far as the relationship goes, there are some great practical things that you were able to learn through watching dad or, growing up with him, but maybe not emotional things. There doesn't feel like, I'm not feeling like an emotional connection, but more like a mental and practical sort of connection. Okay, let's get into the tarot cards and then we'll look at our oracles. Okay, we have Queen of Cups, so you all could be a Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. Oh, then we have the Chariot, so that's Cancer energy. So you or dad could be a Cancer. And then we have 3 of Swords. So heartache. And so those of you who picked this group, you feel very intuitive, very empathic, perhaps even psychic. All right. And actually, this is going to sound random, but in a previous lifetime, you were your father's mother. Okay. So there was a previous lifetime in which the man who's now your father was actually your son. And some of the like karma and entanglements from that past life are still bleeding into this life. And your father's higher self is just wanting to acknowledge that. And I don't know, I think he's hoping that will help explain some of the oddness and the dynamic. But he is aware of, and I actually feel like both of you are kind of going through some sort of heartbreak or pain or frustration or upset within your heart chakra, within your heart, due to some things from the relationship. But with the Chariot, the good thing is your father wants you to know, his higher self wants you to know that he's really, really wanting to like move forward. The Chariot is about movement into the future, you know, taking what you've learned from the past, using it to gain wisdom, but not staying stuck in the past, and really progressing forward in a really balanced, mature way. And your father's higher self is coming through to say, look, that's truly what I want. I don't want to, I don't know. I don't want to look back. I don't want to stay stuck in the past. I want to show you who I can be moving forward. And if you'll give me the chance, I'd really, really like to prove that to you. You know, and I'm noticing that the man in the Chariot too, he's got this armor on, this metal suit of armor, whereas the Queen of Cups has this sort of delicate, soft dress on. So it's almost like he's saying like, I'm more resilient than you think I am. And if there's something that you need to say to me, I am prepared to hear it. So you may have held back from opening up to your father in the past because you weren't sure how he would take it. Like that maybe he'd be too sensitive to handle it. But he's wanting you to know with that armor on as he progresses forward, you know, and swords are all about conversation. He's saying, please open up, please be honest, because I can take it and I'm ready to take it because I just want to do whatever it takes to push forward into the future. So that's really, really good. Comment below. Let me know what you and your dad are going through. I'm really curious to know. Okay, so from the interactive cards, we have the little angry tribal man. He comes up a lot in my readings. Oh, and then we have the stressed out little kid on the hamster wheel with all the to-dos and things to worry about, just really, really stressed. So your father is saying that the energy here of this child, just stressed and worried about everything, he shares that energy with you, okay? He was the same way, and he still is what I'm hearing. He's still the same way, where he's just constantly got a to-do list running in his head and always worried about like not wanting to upset people, and I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and it just like really, really overwhelming him. But also with this tribal man here who's very angry and just wanting to protect and dominate and, you know, kill someone if need be to protect his tribe and his little forest. What I'm hearing from your father, so those 2 cards, they feel like the energy that you are in right now, or that you have been over the past couple of years. It feels like you reached a point where you got fed up with a lot of people and things, and a lot of maybe the type of treatment that you've received in your relationships. It feels like it goes past your father, okay? There could have been breakups or leaving particular jobs or, you know, that sort of energy. You made all these shifts and changes due to like realizing that you were the only one that was ever on this hamster wheel. You were the only one constantly stressed out for everybody, stressed out about everybody, worried about everyone. And up till a certain point in your life, you thought that everyone's on that hamster wheel. Like everyone's here with me. We're all stressing out and worrying together. And it feels like recently you kind of looked around and realized, wait a second, I'm the only one on this hamster wheel? And it's always been this way? No one's been on it with me? And then there was just this anger of like, how dare you, how dare you, how dare you, and just wanting to like clean out your life, right? And dad was part of the scenario. He was one of the people where the finger was pointed, like, how dare you? I'm distancing myself. I'm too good for this. It's like you raised your standards, okay? And your father wants you to know that sort of situation that you've been in the past couple of years, he reached a very similar point in his life years and years ago, where he was the kid and the person stressed out on the hamster wheel, looked around one day, probably in his late 20s or so, realized no one else was there with him, and then anger ensued, and he just like cleared out his life. So what he's saying is, look, I don't worry about me not understanding you, or thinking you're crazy, or don't worry about that, because I know exactly what you're going through, because I went through the exact same thing, 2 decades ago, a decade ago. So I know what it feels like. And I know that all of this anger, that I've heard about from others or seen myself doesn't come from, like, I understand you. I don't just think you have a temper or you're being angry. I know where it comes from. So I don't know. He's just wanting to acknowledge that he knows what situation you're in and why. And he's really ready to hear whatever it is you have to say. He's got his armor on. He's good to go. And he really just wants you in his future. He hates the idea of losing you because you're too afraid to open up with him. He doesn't want that. And, his ego right now actually doesn't matter to him. The pride of his ego, he's not concerned about. And I feel like he's coming through to say that because, I think his ego's always been a factor in you guys' relationship. And he just wants you to know it's not right now. So whatever we need to do to move forward is what he wants. And yeah, with Mercury, a good conversation might be something to have. And I really think that it will go much more smoothly than what you've been worried about. I think that's why you haven't opened up, because you're like, no, I don't even want to know where that will go, or that won't make a difference, or that'll make things worse. I think it will go a lot better than what you are anticipating. Okay, so with the archetype deck, we have the Knight and the Rebel. So on the Knight card, it says loyalty, romance, and chivalry, a love of honor. And again, I'm thinking of the armor here in the Chariot card. The Rebel card says challenges authority to effect social change and rejects spiritual systems that do not serve inner needs. So with these changes you all have been going through, your religion may have been a big part of that. And, maybe perhaps your father is very entrenched in his own religion, and now you're changing your religious beliefs, and perhaps it started from, something like that. But it doesn't have to be religious. It just feels like you all have stepped into this rebel stage recently, where before you were, for most of your life, you were in this stage of kind of worrying and stressing about everyone and everything. It's like now you're in this anarchy sort of stage. You're coming out of that anarchy sort of period that you've been in, where you're like cutting out that you've got to go, that's got to go, and kind of you've been going through like a rebirth. With the Knight here, though, this feels like Dad's energy. The Knight fights. He fights. He volunteers to go to war because he loves his country. It is worth it to him to get on that horse, grab his sword, and go risk his life on the battlefield for the country that he loves. And so your father wants you to know that that is the state of mind that he is in. If he has to, kill or sacrifice himself in some way, maybe, be the bad guy or whatever it is in order to preserve the relationship between you, he's willing to do that. He's willing to do that. So I would say to open up. But, I think it's good. I think for a lot of you, if you're still in this very, very angry sort of stage, that's going to pass. I think whenever we're in that angry sort of stage, a lot of things trigger us and can flare up our temper that maybe in the past wouldn't have. So I think it'd be best to wait out that anger stage, like really get through it. And once the anger starts subsiding and you're noticing that things aren't triggering you as much anymore, you're calmer, you have more clarity, that would be a good time to maybe communicate some things. For a lot of you, there may not even be like an argument going on with Dad. This may just be, I've never opened up to Dad about this. That one particular incident bothered me when I was 8, 9, or 10. And I want him to know that, So it could be little things like that. But I think that's good, because the purpose of the Rebel, okay, which is the energy that you are in, is to, just like it says on the card, effect social change. Your rebelliousness now, you kind of opening up and saying some things that need to be said, it's going to give people around you the opportunity to change, the realization that maybe I do need to change. Maybe I need to swallow my pride and say sorry, or this, that, or the other. So it's meant to work out this way, okay? All right. From the astrological deck, we have Aquarius. So we have the 11th house here, which is ruled by Aquarius, and then we have Aquarius. And Aquarius is all about emotionally detaching from a situation so that you can do what needs to be done and say what needs to be said. Because if our emotions are too caught up in it, we're not going to be able to make an effective change. A change that's going to progress things, a change that's going to move things forward, mature things, right? So if you're still in this sort of angry, tribal, dominating sort of energy, wait it out. You need to wait until that calms down so you can really take on this Aquarius vibe. Now, Aquarius is not worried what others think of it. Aquarius's emotions are very calm, if not kind of non-existent. And Aquarius is very mental and logical. I need to say this. I've got to tell you this. Aquarius doesn't react, to other people. Aquarius says what they need to say, and however that person wants to take it, okay, whatever, that's how they want to take it. So it's like a cool, calm, and collected sort of energy. So I feel like that's the energy that you and your dad need to be in when you do have a conversation. If you're still caught up in the pain and anger and hurt and frustration of something, you're not going to be happy with the, trying to have a conversation about it. You're going to walk away from the conversation and think, oh, dang, I didn't say this, and I should have done that, and I should have said this, because you'll be too caught up. So your father wants you to know that he is in that Aquarius energy, okay? And he wants you to get to that Aquarius energy too, so that way you all can sit down and talk about this Three of Swords situation that's going on, okay? All right, so with the Mona Lisa card, one side has a negative phrase, the other has a positive. The negative phrase says, if I lower my expectations, I'm likely to be happier since I'm less inclined to get disappointed by failure. The positive side is, failure is not as frightening as regret. Optimism, growth, and success are more likely to lead to happiness rather than avoiding challenge. Wow, this applies in so many ways. I don't even know quite where to start. So this lowering of expectations, your father says, yeah, that's something me and my kids share. I was always so stressed about what could happen and what sort of bad thing might be coming that I learned to never expect the happy things, because that was my formula for keeping myself really happy and excited about life. Because if anything good happened, for me, it was always a surprise. I was never expecting it. And if anything bad happened, well, I was always expecting it. So it also wasn't a surprise. No big deal. I was expecting the worst. So you and your dad both have this tactic for getting through life. But the thing is, that leads to this sort of cluttered mind, and this sort of spinning in the hamster wheel, and this fear of getting outside of that. But that's exactly what, your dad wants to evolve and change in. And he says he's working on doing that for himself. And that's what has put him in this energy to be able to come through in this message for you and say, like, I want to talk. I want to open up. That's a big risk, for him, because he doesn't know what you're going to say to him. But he is actually willing to take that risk. Like I said, he's in this Knight sort of energy. And then this card, at the bottom, it says, optimism, growth, and success are more likely to lead to happiness rather than avoiding challenge. So where you and your dad have thought up to this point that avoiding a challenge, avoiding the scary stuff will lead to optimism, growth, and success, you've got this card here telling you that, that avoiding a challenge will lead to happiness. You've got this card here saying, no, growth, optimism, and success lead to happiness. Taking on the challenge is more likely to lead to happiness. And in your case, in your father's case, that challenge that you all are taking on is the challenge of a very open and honest conversation, really getting real with one another. That is the challenge. And it's really, it's the only way to lead to happiness for you and his relationship, really, true happiness. And he really just wants to come through and say, look, I understand you. I'm ready to hear anything. I'm ready to risk anything. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's go. You know, don't be scared of me, or don't think I'm not ready, or don't think it's not worth it to me, because it is, and I want to do it. Okay, let's see what angel is with you and your dad. The angel prince of the east. It says, I purify my mind by affirming my worth and honoring my choices for love. I purify my mind by affirming my worth and honoring my choices for love. That's beautiful. So yeah, purifying the mind. You guys' mind right now, it's quite cluttered. It's time to purify it, to cleanse it, to open up. For some of you, I think this sort of event or meeting is already kind of scheduled, which is why we have the anemone anticipation flower coming up. But for others, you know, I think it's something that you definitely should schedule and reach out and just open up a little bit more, because your dad's ready to hear it. He wants to know really what's going on in your head and what's been going on in your life. He really does want the truth this time. So absolute best of luck to you and to your father's relationship, and I'll be thinking of you over the next few days. Don't forget to leave me a comment and let me know how this reading resonated and why, and I will see you all in the next reading. Love you. Hi, Group 7, and welcome to your reading. Go ahead and take a seat and get comfy. Let's see what your father would like to say to you. I want to start by showing you the flower that you chose, the lovely white rose. So beautiful. It says, new start and wisdom. And the quote says, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So some sort of fresh start may be happening between you and your father. That fresh start could be, you know, a new type of relationship. Maybe some of you have lost a father, and so now it's about a more spiritual relationship between the two of you. For others, it could be that maybe you've recently graduated high school, you're going to be going to college, or maybe you're about to get married. And so in some sense, something new has shifted or changed in your life that's giving you and your father kind of a brand new relationship dynamic to explore. Okay, so let's look at the astrological die. I'm going to roll these and get an overall energy feel for the reading. Okay, we have Saturn in Capricorn in the 7th house. Wow. So Saturn is ruled by Capricorn. Capricorn could be a strong sign in your chart or in your father's, and Saturn represents that authoritative, strict, you know, father figure. And Saturn in our chart kind of represents what area of our life is restricted, at least until 30, due to our father. And that restriction over those first 30 years teaches us a lot of great lessons about, you know, life. So in the 7th house is about business partnerships and one-on-one relationships and marriage as well. And Capricorn is a sign that's about the long haul. It's about longevity. It's about standing the test of time. It's about, you know, tradition and stability and all of those sorts of things. So those themes, you know, that I touched upon could come up in the reading, or they will come up, but we'll see in what way. So let's start with the tarot. Okay, we have 7 of Swords. The Fool, new start, goes perfectly with the white rose. In fact, the Fool is carrying a white rose. So I love that. Oh, wow. And then we have the Devil, and Capricorn is the sign of the Devil. So, wow, a lot of confirmation coming in for this reading. So, okay. So if you notice, the Devil is kind of holding these two people captive. I mean, they can actually get away whenever they want to. They're kind of choosing to stay there, but he's holding them captive. He's chaining them in. So it feels like you were chained in by something, okay? It does feel related to Dad, but there was a breakaway. This is interesting. Your father could have been the one to break away. Perhaps he's touching on something that occurred years and years and years ago. But for others of you, it feels like, you know what, I'm going to clarify, because this is looking a little too muddy. So let me clarify these cards real quick. Spirit, could you please clarify Okay, we have 9 of Swords. Yeah, okay. And 4 of Wands, so marriage, 7th house, marriage. Yeah, okay, so there could have been, so it's going to be different for each one of you, but I'm first of all hearing from one of your fathers that he wants to come through and apologize for the divorce. Okay, your parents went through a divorce and your father kind of up and left and started his own life, moved far away, remarried quickly, or married maybe someone that you didn't like, or I don't know, he just kind of left, and it brought you a lot of pain. Your mother was in a lot of pain. There could have been cheating going on that ended the marriage, or it could have been some sort of addiction or something illegal. Okay, but there was something. Yeah, he's wanting to come through and apologize. There's he did not. Yeah, he did not hold true to his vows, to his promises, and because of this, okay, he's saying, I know that because of this divorce, this separation, and the way that I handled it, it has traumatized you from entering into marriage or entering into long-term relationships. And I want you to know that deep down, you are not actually against marriage. Deep down, you are not against long-term relationships. The only way you feel this way is because of what I did to you and to your mother years ago. So don't let my mistakes and my faults dictate your life, because you deserve a beautiful future, a beautiful marriage with beautiful children, or whatever. So he really wants you to, well, he wants you to forgive him, but you don't have to forgive him. He wants you to. He's coming through to say sorry, and that he acknowledges that that was him. He should have handled it differently. But he just wants to make sure that you don't restrict yourself from love or restrict yourself from marriage because you're just so freaked out by how your parents' relationship ended, okay? Because with this 4 of Wands, you are meant for a really happy marriage. You could have a distrust of, the opposite sex in general because of, or well, with men specifically because of how you saw your father being in marriage and as a dad, and it could have made you very distrustful, and so you don't want to give your heart away or make yourself vulnerable to others in that way. But your dad's like, please don't make the same mistake I did. He's saying, actually, the only reason my marriage ended the way it did, and the only reason I was the type of parent I was, is because my heart was closed off because of my own parents' mistakes. So don't repeat. You think that you're avoiding repeating the cycle by avoiding marriage altogether, but he's saying you're actually repeating the same cycle as I did because your heart is closed off and you're fearful of being vulnerable. So he wants you to open up your heart and just know how sorry he is. He's very, very sorry. And yeah, I'm seeing lots of imagery of a young girl, like a blonde girl, watching mom be really upset and cry and just kind of being confused and hurt. Okay, so I don't know why he's putting that image in, maybe just to acknowledge that he saw, what was going on. He saw what was going on with you, whether you realize it or not, or he knew on some level, and he knows it's his fault. And I just keep hearing like, I effed up, I effed up, I effed up. No new beginning was worth losing what I had, basically, or no new beginning was worth, losing your, he feels kind of responsible for the fact that you may miss out on your own amazing love story due to his mistakes, and that he doesn't want that. Okay, let's look at the interactive cards. We have the tired old cat lady, as well as the scientist. So yeah, okay, if you picked this pile, you've definitely, at least at some point in your life, you were dead set on living alone. Like, never getting married, never relying on anybody else but yourself. Some of you, this may actually be your first time coming to a tarot reading or a pick a card reading of some sort, because I'm feeling that you even your religious views shifted after this divorce, or after your father leaving or your father getting remarried. You became like atheist, where everything was about like tangibility, what's logical, and really hating emotions, hating your emotions altogether, because in your experience, well, emotions just cause me pain, and emotions are silly and useless, and you're really like a big believer in like science and logic and what's tangible. Okay. So, but your father's coming through to say, you think you're avoiding that cycle of what I did, but you're actually in the exact same boat as I was. It's expressed slightly differently, but it's the same thing. The devil card is actually about a lack of spirituality in one's life. Having no spirituality, only focused on what's tangible, and how that can trap us in a very depressing or toxic cycle. So this sort of anti-spirituality and anti-emotions, and is that you're in the same place that he was, okay? But you think you're avoiding it, but you're not. And he's just wanting to say, like, he really is just like, I just want you to know, like, you're in the same place I was. And I want to help you avoid that, because it doesn't lead to happiness. I want your heart open. I want your mind free. I want you to have, spiritual blessings and emotional blessings and marriage and children and family and tradition. Like, I want all of that for you. And you want that for yourself as well, deep down. And the only reason you think you don't is because you've hardened your vulnerability and your heart to protect yourself. Okay. So he's wanting this white rose, this new start, this new freedom in your life, freeing your heart once again, starting fresh, and, a fresh value system and a fresh outlook on life and all of that. Okay, we have the Child Nature card. How cute. Wow, and then we have the Priest. Talk about spirituality. Child Nature says friendships with animals and communication with nature spirits. So some of you may have felt called towards witchcraft, spell work, Wiccan, pagan, okay? That would be a great way to start connecting to your more spiritual side, okay? But in maybe a way that you align with a little more, a way that's a little less, I don't know, maybe frou-frou, because you do feel very scientific, very logical. So I think that'd be a great way to tap into your spirituality, but in something you believe in and really enjoy, because Capricorn is about kind of the earth as well. So that would be really, really great. And I think your father just wanted to come through with that sort of idea, because he really just wants to open the door for anything that could help soften and reopen your heart. With the Priest, it says facilitates spiritual commitments, serves as a channel of spiritual energy. So that card is just screaming to me spirituality, heart chakra, vulnerability, emotions, which is really the whole reason that your dad came through. He wants a new, clean, fresh start for you that's way off of the path he was on, that is much more welcoming to other people. Like, you want relationships in your life, you want responsibilities, and to share things with other people and all of that. So he just wants to say sorry, and he just wants you to know, like, this is all my fault, that you think this way, that you feel this way about these certain things. It's all on me. All right, from the astrological deck, we have the Sun. So that's Leo energy. Beautiful. And the Sun actually represents our father in our chart. But the Sun, it's where we shine. Again, it's making me think of kind of religious views and spirituality, because some of the earliest civilizations worshipped the sun god and the moon god. And even Christianity refers to the sun, Jesus Christ, the Son of God. There's a big spiritual aspect, really, in your whole reading. And the Sun is also about gratitude as well, expressing your spirituality through deep gratitude towards whatever it was that gave you the beautiful weather outside, or the delicious fruit that you're eating, or it's like your father saying, like, please remember to give thanks and to truly feel gratitude and gratefulness for even just the little things that you experience on a day-to-day basis. Don't take any of it for granted. And that's a great way to get in touch with your emotions and your spirituality. And he just keeps saying, I never learned how to really do that in the right way. I didn't learn that, and I don't want that for you. Open up your heart. The Sun also represents our inner child, like your inner child, which is the nature child. And the inner child is fully vulnerable. And loves kind of expressing itself, and isn't so logical. You know, the son and the inner child are much more passionate and creative, and they're about fun and play, okay? So your dad really wants you to add some more risk and excitement and passion into your life. Okay, so 2 cards from the Mona Lisa deck came out. I'll read the back side, or one side is like the negative phrase and the other side is the positive phrase. So I'll read both of these. Okay, so the negative phrase says, I'm afraid of change. Ooh, we've got the white rose, new start. Then we've got the fool. Like, wow, this is lining up so well. Okay, then on the other side of the card, it says, if necessary, I am willing to let go of an old identity, lifestyle, relationship, or career so I can grow and develop my potential. Every ending is an opportunity for something new to emerge. Yes. Your dad's just like, tell her to take a risk, go on that date, you know, fall in love, you know, laugh her butt off, do something crazy and fun and exciting. He really, really wants that for you. Okay, the other card says, a lot of people get opportunities that I'll never get. People are potential adversaries. That's about that mistrust. People are potential adversaries. Any one person could be my friend one day and then potentially become an enemy. So I'm going to block all of them out. So your father wants you to flip that phrase to, with the help of a loving friend or skillful guide, I now unearth my unique creativity and give birth to it in a supportive community. That is gorgeous. Like-minded people. Your dad wants you to find like-minded people. He wants you to find your spirituality. He wants you to find marriage. He wants you to become a parent. He wants you to live life to the absolute fullest. He wants to acknowledge that you're very, he's like, yeah, please, I'm hearing my daughter, like, please tell my daughter, like she is, but it could be son as well. She is so responsible, so intelligent, so freaking smart. You can't get anything past her. So grounded, so stable, but she feels dry inside. She feels dry. She feels empty. I don't want that for my child. I don't want that, especially when I know that it's my fault that she's feeling that way. So that's really why he came through in today's reading for you, is for that reason right there. So let's get to the last 2 cards. 2 cards wanted to come out. These are the angels that are with you and your father, like within your relationship. We have Archangel Gabriel and the guardian angel of youth. So on the Archangel Gabriel card, and again, look, there's white flowers. Those are lilies, but I can't believe how many white flowers I'm seeing on the cards. It says, I am made whole by the message of love, brotherhood, and freedom. Freedom, love, brotherhood. Brotherhood is all about relationships. 7th house, one-on-one relationships. There's a whole part of you, you know, that's missing. There's a whole part of your life that's missing. Grab a hold of that. That's what your dad wants to tell you. Grab a hold of that. The brotherhood, the love, and the freedom. That's beautiful. So Archangel Gabriel is there to help with that. And then the guardian angel of youth says, oh, this is so perfect. It says, as I share my enthusiasm, humor, and sense of fun, I protect and honor my youthful spirit. That's what the Sun card is all about, that inner child, the child nature. As I share my enthusiasm, humor, and sense of fun, I protect and honor my youthful spirit. It's time to honor your inner child. It's time to go back to that inner child when kind of this stuff was going on in your parents' marriage, and console that child, you know, nurture that child, hug that child, forgive that child, like anything that needs to be done. It's really time for some healing there. And then, yeah, it's time for a brand new start, a brand new perspective, new values, a new bucket list, you know, new ways to connect to your spirituality, more creativity and laughter in your life, more relationships in your life. Your dad really, really wants the best for you. He wants the best for you, and he wants you to get excited for life again, and instead of being wary of life and wary of people, to be excited for life and excited for all the interesting, wonderful people within it, including yourself. All right, what a beautiful, beautiful message. comment below. Let me know what industry your practical little mind is in. I would be so curious. And let me know how this resonated and in what way. And I look forward to seeing you next week for the special message from your mother's higher self. I'm really, really excited about that one. Okay, love you guys so much. Bye. Hi, pile number 8, and welcome to your reading. I can't wait to see what your father's higher self has come through to say to you. Let me start by showing you the flower that you picked, and this is the snapdragon, and it says graciousness and benevolence. And the quote at the bottom says, "No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted." So I think your dad is really wanting to acknowledge that every little small thing that you've done that perhaps you think he didn't notice, perhaps he didn't show that he noticed it, he did. He hasn't forgotten it. Let's roll the astrological die and get an overall energy feel for the reading. Okay, we have Capricorn, 9th house, and Venus. So 9th house is about long distance travel and foreign travel. Venus is about our love life, and then Capricorn is the sign of the father and tradition and structure. So there may have been something related to work or love life that perhaps pulled you and your father away from each other physically. You know, maybe it moved you guys at a distance from each other, or, you know, 9th house is also about our religious beliefs. And so that could be a shared interest between the both of you. Maybe your religion really brings the two of you together, or the culture that you're from. Perhaps, you know, you grew up in a country that was very different from where your parents grew up. And so maybe that culture kind of came with you all, and that's a bonding, a way for you guys to both bond. Like, for example, if your family is from Vietnam, but they moved to the United States when you were young, and so that Vietnamese culture becomes a way of bonding between you and dad. But let's get into the tarot cards and the oracles and kind of expand on the message here. Okay, we have 5 of Pentacles. We have the Sun. So this could be a child that's involved that maybe dad wants to talk about. But this could just represent you and your inner child. The Sun is fire energy, so you or your dad could be a Leo or an Aries or a Sagittarius. 9th house is ruled by Sagittarius. Okay, and we have 5 of Cups. This is about regret, grieving, sadness. There's 2 5s actually here. 5s are about a period of loss or change or upheaval. For some of you, there's been a loss of a child, like a miscarriage, that your dad wants to acknowledge and come through and say that he's been watching over you and watching over that child that was lost. It kind of zapped a lot of joy out of things. So yeah, he's wanting to acknowledge that sadness and that loss, and he doesn't want you to feel alone in that. Maybe that was something you didn't talk about to anyone or never opened up to him about. But he wants you to know that his higher self, at least, knows what happened, knows what went on, and he grieves for you, and he feels that sadness for you. And he also wants to, if it wasn't a child that was lost, because I know this will be different for everyone, there was something lost that really zapped the joy out of you, I feel, quite recently. And your father's wanting to say that he sees what happened. He acknowledges the loss and the sadness. He's sad with you. And he also wants you to know that this happiness, the joy that's been zapped, he's working on helping to bring that back into your life, okay? He's working on doing that for you. So he doesn't want you to be too discouraged or to feel like, you know, what's the use? There could have been issues growing up with either like a death or drinking or money issues, okay? And whatever it was growing up, your dad wants you to know that you have such a persevering spirit, because through it all, he saw how optimistic you remained through all the darkness, through all the different trials and tribulations that you went through growing up. He saw how much you continued to just shine in spite of all of that. And he's just in awe of you for this. And he just keeps saying, please tell them they're so beautiful, so beautiful. I just keep hearing beautiful, beautiful, and just such a blessing. And yeah, he's so proud that he's proud of this sort of bright energy that you've always carried with you despite everything. Very, very proud of that. And I just keep hearing beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's look at the interactive cards. All right, we have this wise nature woman, I guess. Aw. And then we have the little grandma with the cookies and the kitties. So I feel both of these are older women on this card. I feel like you all may have been raised by a grandmother at some point, or a grandmother. I think it could have been your father's mother, but an elderly woman held a lot of significance in your life throughout your childhood. And I feel like she has passed on as well. And she's popping into this reading, I guess, because your father's wanting you to know that I don't know if their relationship was strained or not, but he's wanting to acknowledge that they are together and that they watch over you. Yeah, and he's also wanting you to know that you're going to have a very, very long, long, long life to live, in which you can kind of fill with this sort of happy sunshine light that you have about you. So even though it may be zapped temporarily because of your frustration or sadness over something, it is coming back. Your father and this grandmother or female figure who has passed on is around you, trying to fill you up with good vibrations, good energy, positivity. And yeah, your father's also saying, there were certain things that I couldn't do that other people in your life had to do for you because I wasn't able to, either because he was far away or because his personality was a certain way where there weren't certain things he could offer to you. So he just seems he keeps saying how grateful and thankful he is that there was kind of like a tribe of people raising you, actually. A tribe of people that influenced you and raised you, and how he wants for some reason to point out that he's not resentful or like jealous of that. He's actually really grateful for that. Such a random thing to point out, but that he's really, I just keep seeing his finger kind of point on that. So he wants me to bring that up, that he's grateful, and that you are just the absolute light of his life with this son, the absolute light of his life. You are the luck of his life. You are you brought him luck and good fortune, is what he said. You may have been the third born child, okay? But you don't have to be. But you could have been the third born child. And yeah, once again, there's a female figure coming through strongly that somehow, or at least now, is very close to your father, and they're kind of teamed up together to help you. But yeah, you have this very warm, kind, sort of optimistic energy that your father just adores. Okay, we have the Don Juan and the Judge. This is giving me Libra energy. The Don Juan card says, spotlights your positive, seductive qualities. And the Judge says, balancing justice and compassion and managing the fair distribution of power. Okay, so I feel like there is a relationship that you're either in right now or that you have already gotten in before, and your father seems judgmental of that relationship. He doesn't want you with that particular person. But let me see if he's showing this because he knows he's wrong to judge. Spirit, could you please clarify? Okay, we have Wheel of Fortune, which is 9th house energy. And 10 of Pentacles, okay. Yeah, okay. Oh, and Ace of Pentacles. Okay, so your we have Wheel of Fortune, 10 of Pentacles, Ace of Pentacles. Your father has a lot of plans for you outside of marriage and relationships. which is why he can come across as judgmental whenever you are doing things that are perhaps frivolous in his eyes or relationship focused. He really wants to see you go to college. He really wants to see you get a degree, have a profession for yourself, maybe get to experience the world and other cultures and create a legacy. And he's really wanting you to focus on finance and education and travel at this time. And he's not wanting you to move too quickly into relationship or marriage. Now, if you're already married, then in that case, your father's really wanting you to focus over the next few years on money, finances. Because remember, we have this Five of Pentacles here, which is about being kind of short on money, not having very many options. That's how your father felt for a lot of his life, but he knows that you have the potential to create a 10 of Pentacles legacy for yourself, like wealth and stability for generations. Yeah, I feel like a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD, a doctorate, maybe learning a second language. Like that's what his higher self really wants that for you. So regardless of what his day-to-day sort of self projects, his higher self wants to see success and achievement for you in the material realm, so with your job, with your career, and to put off marriage until you've experienced the fullness of your success, basically, is what he's saying here. All right, so from the astrological deck, we have Uranus and Jupiter. So we have 3 cards indicating Sagittarius energy. Jupiter, the 9th house, Wheel of Fortune. So your father really wants you to possibly live in a foreign country, actually learn a second language, travel. And yeah, with Uranus is all about like a shock to the system and kind of like doing something kind of out of nowhere. And it also rules Aquarius, which is about kind of detaching emotionally and doing kind of what needs to be done. So I feel like there's a field, your father wants you to go into a field that's related to crime or the justice system or science or technology or something online or politics, okay? Those are all sort of the things. Your father sees a huge amount, or at least his higher self sees a huge amount of potential in you for those sort of fields, okay? And he's really urging through this reading to take that trip you've been putting off or learn that second language that you've been considering and to stay away from love for a little bit, okay? Not forever, but he really is like wanting you to stay away from love for a little bit. So with that, him and this grandmother of yours that's passed on, they could be sabotaging relationships for you until you get the point and kind of pivot towards education, career, and finance. Once you do that and you accomplish that, I don't see them kind of meddling in your love life anymore. But if you've been experiencing frustrations in love, that's definitely why. Because they're trying to, push you towards this success. Okay, so let's look at, the Mona Lisa cards. I will read the negative phrase first and then the positive. The first one says, my destiny is to experience pain, suffering, and personal struggle, which is that 5 of Pentacles, 5 of Cups energy. Replace that with, I now release any repetitive patterns that bind, limit, and restrict my growth and evolution. And the 9th house and Jupiter, they're all about growth, revolution, expansion, luck, okay? Good fortune. Your destiny is not to experience pain and struggle. This is your destiny. The happiest card in the tarot deck, the bright and shining and vibrant sun. That's you. And you are that even in the midst of the sadness. You just have this brightness about you. Okay, the next card says, I'm unlovable. I won't get help even if I need it. Wow. And your dad wants you to replace this with, inside of me is a passionate, lovable person who others want to support and be around. Do you guys actually have a hard time accepting love and accepting love from others? Because I would think with this sun energy, this is the true you. This is the card I look at and I say, oh, this is the person I'm reading for. This is your energy. This is completely lovable, adored, magnetic, vibrant. But I know that I feel that those cards are speaking to maybe a more temporary situation, because I do see that there's something that happened recently that really shook you up and shook your confidence and zapped your joy. And your dad acknowledges that, and he's trying to help you get back to your really confident, happy, vivacious, fun-loving self. And to get the success that's meant for you, an insane amount of money that's meant for you. And it's somehow related to something your father carries within him, either genetic traits or, karma from his ancestral line, cycles from his side of the family. There's some sort of cycle or genetic trait or karma related to like immense amount of worldly success, and that's meant for you. So don't let your joy be zapped for too long. Work on getting that happiness back and on focusing on you and not on love life or relationships. Okay, the last card will show us the angel that's with you and your father's relationship. We have the Archangel Raphael. And it says, I am strengthened and healed by the power of divine love. I'm strengthened and healed by the power of divine love. Yeah, so tap into that inner love. That's going to help you get your shine back. In any way that you can connect with your spirituality, loved ones in the spiritual realm. And yeah, there's certain people that we know we can go to and will always receive love from them, because the relationship's so established, it's so strong, like maybe with a parent or a best friend. Those are the types of relationships, or in prayer, like through God, through our guardian angels. Those are places we can go and receive like guaranteed love. Those are the relationships your father really wants you to foster, and he wants you to stay away from like fickle romantic relationships, because he doesn't want to see your self-esteem get crushed right now. And like he keeps saying, you're not supposed to be, really in like having a love life right now. You're supposed to be really grinding and focusing on like college and finance and career and that sort of thing. So that's, sorry, my phone almost died. So that's really what he wants to see you do. He is extremely proud of you. He's also saying that of all of his children, you are meant to be the most successful. And he knows that. Even in his day-to-day life, he knows that. I don't know if he expresses it or not, but he really wants me to let you know that. He knows that you are going to be the most successful one of his children. In terms of money, finance, legacy, achievements, you are. But there's an insecurity there. You don't seem to believe it. I don't think you see what the rest of the world sees. And you know what? Your father doesn't, and he's acknowledging, he doesn't express that to you enough in your day-to-day life either. How much joy your aura has around it and how much success you're meant to have. So he does want to apologize for that. And yeah, he came through just to tell you how special you are, how much success is meant for you, and that he wants to see you truly, truly happy and conquering the world. So comment down below and let me know how this resonated and in what way. And I love you guys so much, and I can't wait to see you in the next reading. And don't forget, next week is going to be a special message from your mom. So subscribe if you haven't so you don't miss that. Okay, love you, love you, love you. Bye.